I mean, the cloud is rather important to this whole equation, right? As you know, so the cloud started, in my opinion, it wasn't it was technology is important, but it wasn't just the technology. Like if you remember, Sun had grid, whatever computing, IBM had. There's all of these flavors of it, but what was missing was an understanding of how to get to the developer, right? And to enable the developer to be radically more productive and to self-adopt. So, cloud came in through sort of the gray IT, right? And so now we've basically institutionalized, or at least put that into our culture, DevOps culture, was just say, don't get in the way of the choice of the tools by these small teams. Give them governance as a service, force them to comply with your governance at some level, but let them decide if it's a cloud A, cloud C, whatever, go. And you've got to enable that, or on-prem D, right? You've got to enable that. And that's, I think, a huge reason why Kubernetes has exploded, because Kubernetes does enable that. The problem is, the standard cliche, software is eating the world, but data is giving us indigestion. So, great, I have Kubernetes, and I have it in the cloud, and I have one on-prem, and on-prem I connect to my NetApp, and I use my NetApp for all these things that I can't do in the cloud, but I can do other things in the cloud. And so pretty soon, you don't have Kubernetes, you have Kuberneteses, right?
Yeah.
And they're all different and because your data layer is not the same.
But also just taking a step back there, the original premise when containers, became a thing in the last several years, it was for stateless workloads that were not reliant on having a persistent data, I guess, pool or connection for that workload. So it was for maybe a web app, or it was for, some microservice that didn't require on state for its survival. Right. So you could delete the container, spin up a new one with that service, and you didn't care whether storage was linked to that workload or not.
And now folks are realizing that, managing distributed data, why not use a distributed layer like Kubernetes? And it's obviously Pure just bought our leading proprietary competitor last week for $370 million. That's great. But maybe just as important.
Well, it just shows that the industry is like, oh my God, this is happening.
This is happening, yeah. And we know
it's happening.
It's happening. Yeah. We have thousands, I don't know, maybe tens of thousands of users out there in our open source. So it's happening quickly. But also what I was going to say is even the legacy storage vendors are replatforming. You may not be talking about it, but behind the scenes onto Kubernetes.
So tell me about that, because I know there's this whole container storage interface that these guys are trying to.
No, but I'm saying even if so container storage interface goes northbound, if you will, to Kubernetes. And Kubernetes
right.
So that's fine. What I'm saying is if you pop the hood on the tin, right, what's in that $1 million array? Increasingly, Kubernetes is sitting there. So the same vendors who are saying, why would you run your storage on Kubernetes? They're selling you boxes running storage on Kubernetes, but they're marking it up like, 1,000-fold.
And then they're not letting you get into it.
Oh, no, no, you can't get into it. They
defeats the
lock the freaking rack, man.
Yeah.
It's very similar to what happened with software-defined storage. Yeah.
Interesting.
But writ large. But it's one reason that the data growth is like kaboom, right? Just explosive growth in data. And revenue growth for mid-tier arrays is like, what's happened? It's the cable TV problem, man. You piss off your airline travel or taxis. Piss off your customers long enough, lock them in, not treat them well. Eventually, they'll find a different way. And the preferred different way, there's two. One, I would say, is cloud. Just screw it. We're paid through the nose for Amazon.
Yeah.
Because it's easy. And the other is we don't want any storage, thanks. We're just going to run Cassandra, and we're going to use entire servers underneath it, every node. Like, what? You're wasting so much time. You're burning, you're contributing to carbon warming. What are you doing? Your data center footprint there is, but it's better than running a legacy array. So that's it's pretty sick, actually. It's a great industry, don't get me wrong, but the window's closed on real innovation in shared storage. because the very founding things that led to its emerging are gone, and users have moved on. Now they're SREs. They're going to pay for the 10 wrapping and the 24/7. People do. Don't get me. Nothing goes away in tech. Mainframes are still sold, but that's the equivalent. The legacy array is a mainframe for data now, and that's fine. That'll continue, but it's not the future.
The legacy array is the mainframe for data. Yeah. So then the non-mainframe part for data is going to be Kubernetes, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so where's Kubernetes going to source its storage from in this case? And what does that look like?
Yeah, anywhere. So often it will be via CSI from those legacy arrays, right? But then it'll be partitioned up and normalized, if you will, normalized by Portworx in the case of if you're pure storage customer now that they've been bought by them or some other. And OpenEBS will not only be supported by isn't only supported by Maya Data, but there'll be more name brand companies for sure supporting it in the future and building it in. We see it, and we'll be making some announcements soon along these lines. So yeah, that's and you may not even know you're using it. You often don't know. You're just deploying.
You're just using Kubernetes.
Yeah, Kubernetes. Oh, Postgres. Boom. I'm gonna run. This is an easy way to do my, a really cool community member. Really cool in the sense of having a lot of very smart engineers. Is Second Quadrant from Europe, right?
Yeah.
And they help some of the world's largest companies and a whole bunch of folks run Postgres at massive scale.
Right.
They bake OpenEBS into those common patterns. You don't even think about it, right?
Yeah.
It's just there. It's just running. And if you need some additional capabilities, you talk to us. But it's a different paradigm than having to think about, oh, we're going to need a new array. Do we have room on the floor? Or any of that. We just spun it up and didn't even notice.
So do you ever get questions about, yeah, sure. We'll try this in dev, we'll try this in our dev environment. But when it comes to UAT and prod, we're still sticking our legacy mainframe storage vendors because they're going to be more reliable. We like Kubernetes for, data plane storage, for prod. I don't know about that. Do you ever, for certain
Sure.
Do you get that? And what's your answer? And what's your answer?
Just, that's fine. Just keep thinking that. And then, just give us time. It's the innovator's dilemma, right?
I don't want to talk to you next.
Please tell your legacy storage vendor exactly that. We're going to stick with you. And then, don't worry about it. You're going to hit your numbers. Don't change anything. Keep going.
Yeah.
And a lot of workloads will stay there. But again, data growth, you just wait around 18 months, the whole storage industry flips, right? In the sense that the amount of data being stored doubles every 18 months, roughly 2 years, whatever, depending who you believe. So, the net new is largely not going to traditional storage. The big question is, will it all go to Amazon, or will it all go to, I think Snowflake's appeal, there's a lot of amazing stuff there. But one is that it runs the same on every cloud, right? It's just a service per drip service that kind of frees you from, does a lot more than this, but frees you from lock into a particular cloud. But it has that same center of gravity feel to it, right? You're fully buying into Snowflake. Yeah, would you still run, we have customers and users, the Bloombergs and others of the world with thousands of, little databases all over. And then the idea is you pipe it in using Kafka as something like a Snowflake. It makes sense out of it. That may be what the future holds, or it may be that piece gets disrupted by Dremio or whatever, some other data lakes that are more disaggregated, open source based in nature and give you yet more flexibility. I don't know. I'm not sure I'd bet against Snowflake, but on the other hand, it's not like it's going to take the whole world. But that's what we're looking at. It's a fun time. It really is. Democratizing a lot of these capabilities for developers so they can be responsible for their data, make sense out of it faster, and move it around. All that. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and for me, the tagline is you're literally just, if you've got Kubernetes, it sounds like just continue using Kubernetes and just use it to its full potential.
Right.
Basically,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Kubernetes for data.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.